What's going on, everybody? I'm back for another edition of my Year in Wrestling series of videos. I'll be talking about every year, every pay-per-view, and other stuff that happened that was big. Events that happened other than pay-per-views, like on Raws and Nitros and ECW, stuff like that. This is my part 1 of the Year in Wrestling 1998. This is part 1, and I'll be doing my series of Year in Wrestling videos all the way up until 2015. I don't know when I'll be finished, probably at the end of the year or into 2016 I'll finish. Anyways, I'm going to kick it off talking about WWF Royal Rumble 1998. And why do I still call them WWF? Because they were WWF until April or May of 2002. So when I start talking about 2002, then I'll call them WWE. But I'm going to still call them WWF for now. 98 Royal Rumble took place from... I lost my information about it. Royal Rumble. Here it is. Royal Rumble took place from San Jose, California. First match was Vader defeating the artist formerly known as Goldust. Vader defeats him. That was a good kickoff. Crowd was pretty into it when Vader hit a Vader bomb on Goldust and Luna was on his back, hanging on to Vader's, basically on his back, and Vader took Luna for a ride. And I'm sure that didn't feel good for Luna when she landed pretty hard on the back of Vader from him doing a Vader bomb. So Vader wins. Up next was a midget match. You had the team of Nova, somebody else, can't pronounce his name, and Max Mini defeat the team of Tarantula, I think, and El Torito, or El Torado, I don't know, three other midgets. Basically, the team of Max Mini beat the other team of midgets. Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental title on the line. Rocky Maivia. I think they were calling him The Rock. By this time, he wasn't called Rocky Maivia anymore. It was just The Rock. And The Rock fits way better than Rocky Maivia ever did. The Rock defeats Ken Shamrock to retain the Intercontinental title by disqualification. Up next was, I believe this was before the Royal Rumble match. I hope it wasn't after it. The WWF Championship, Shawn Michaels defeats The Undertaker in a casket match. And then you had, I believe, Paul Bearer and Kane. Kane chokeslammed The Undertaker into the casket. Kane interfered. And then Paul Bearer put padlocks on the casket so Taker could not get out. They pushed the casket in front of the entrance way. And then they set it. Might have been after the Royal Rumble match for 98. I think it was. Anyways, Kane pours a ton of gasoline on the casket and then he sets it on fire. Crazy thing to just see that casket go up in flames. It was pretty damn crazy. And it was shocking. I knew Taker, obviously the Undertaker got out probably under a trap door, probably under the casket or on the side of the casket when the lights went out or something. If the lights went out before Kane and Paul Bearer pushed the casket to the entranceway, if the lights went out, Undertaker, I'm sure, got out some type of trap door or something in the casket. He got out and probably went under the ring and nobody saw it happen. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how Undertaker got out and got under the ring. I would love to know, but I guess that's magic. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. They pulled it off, and it was pretty awesome. Kane sets the casket ablaze. It goes up in flames. There's a lot of flames, a big fire, and then he kneels down on one knee and does the Undertaker pose. Does Kane. That was an awesome moment at Royal Rumble 98, seeing that casket set on fire. And then Jim Ross is, I believe, screaming at the top of his lungs on commentary. He really added to it. Says, there's a man in there, and the casket's on fire! The casket's on fire! The casket's on fire! I think Jim Ross said that at least once or twice. And I think I can do a pretty good JR impression, but I'm not going to do any more JR for now. I'll do a JR impression after I talk about the King of the Ring Hell in the Cell 98 match when Mick Foley fell, and then Jim Ross yelled, good God Almighty, that killed him. And then he goes, as God is my witness, he is broken in half. So that's my Jim Ross impression. Up next, after Shawn Michaels retained the title because of Kane interfering, you had the Royal Rumble match. You had Mick Foley come in as Cactus Jack. Terry Funk was in the Royal Rumble as Chainsaw Charlie. You had, I believe, JBL was in the Royal Rumble. I think Phineas Godwin. Who else? Mark Merrill was in there. Jeff Jarrett. Owen Hart. I don't remember who else. The Rock was in the 98 Royal Rumble. I think Ken Shamrock might have even been in it. Kurgan, the Giant. Kurgan was in it. Anyways, Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, comes in first as Cactus Jack. Gets eliminated. Comes back in. I think the next time is Dude Lover Dude Lover Mankind. So Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and Mankind, the three faces of Foley, all enter the 1998 Royal Rumble. That was pretty damn entertaining. And for Mick Foley, in his career in the WWE, he had three characters: Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and Mankind. To get those three characters over like he did, that is amazing. And that's just a credit to Mick Foley and how great he was and how great he is to have three different characters, and he got all of them over. And the crowd, I'm sure, loved seeing the three faces of Foley in the 1998 Royal Rumble. That has never happened again because no talents in the WWE now have three characters. They're just lucky nowadays if you can get one character over. So, it comes down to Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in the Royal Rumble. The winner goes to WrestleMania to get a world title shot. Stone Cold stuns The Rock and tosses him out over the top rope. Stone Cold wins the 1998 Royal Rumble. And up in the stands, up in a skybox, was Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson was there with Shane McMahon sitting in a skybox. And Mike Tyson was marking the hell out. The guy must really be a wrestling fan because he was really marking out when Stone Cold won the Royal Rumble. And then the next night on Monday Night Raw, you had the epic confrontation of Mike Tyson showing up on Raw and Vince McMahon announcing him, saying, "Here's Iron Mike Tyson." And then Mike Tyson comes out to Raw. And then Stone Cold's music hits. And then Jim Ross famously said on commentary. And this was during the height, or it was during getting to the peak and height of the Attitude Era. When Mike Tyson showed up, Stone Cold's music hit. Jim Ross says, "Mike Tyson is standing in Stone Cold's ring." And then Stone Cold gets in like the badass that he is. He says to Mike Tyson, "You're locking your little beady eyes on the eyes of the toughest son of a bitch." And then he basically says to Mike Tyson, "If you don't understand what I'm saying to you, here's what I'm saying to you, or something like that. And then he goes, here's to ya. And he flips on the bird. Mike Tyson gets pissed off, pushes Stone Cold. And then the giant posse that Mike Tyson had gets involved, and they all start holding back Stone Cold. There's a giant posse in the ring standing with Mike Tyson. So they all get involved. And then Stone Cold is getting held back, and he starts taking out his posse. And then Stone Cold gets carried out of the ring by WWE officials. And Vince McMahon, before he was really the Mr. McMahon character, but I believe he created the Mr. McMahon character from screwing Bret Hart. When he did that interview on Raw and said Bret screwed Bret. So basically Vince comes out through the second rope and starts yelling at Stone Cold, you ruined it, damn it, you ruined it. And then Vince McMahon tries to swing at Stone Cold on the outside of the ring and misses. But it was damn funny as hell. They were laying the groundwork right there. They were laying the groundwork for the epic Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon feud that would last almost 2 years. So that was Royal Rumble 98. Stone Cold wins the Royal Rumble, goes to WrestleMania 14 to get his title shot. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Sold Out pay-per-view. See, I'm going to talk about WCW Sold Out and In Your House, No Way Out. It was a February WWF pay-per-view. And I'm going to talk about WCW Superbrawl. And then a little bit about Shawn Michaels' title run before he had to retire after WrestleMania 14 because of a back injury. WCW Sold Out 1998 took place from Dayton, Ohio on January 24th, 98. First match was Luchadors in action, Cruiserweight action. Juventud Guerrero, Super Calo, Lizmar Jr., and Chavo Guerrero Jr. defeat the team of La Parca, Silver King, Psychosis, and El Dandy. This was a pretty good kickoff to Sold Out 98. It was a lot of action, a lot of high-flying spots, and it was the Cruiserweights and Luchadors in action. Up next, Chris Benoit defeated Raven in a decent match. Chris Jericho defeats Rey Mysterio Jr. to win the Cruiserweight title from him. That was a good match. TV champion Booker T defends against the returning Rick Martel. Rick Martel was in the WWF for years and years in the late 80s into the early 90s. So Rick Martel makes his WCW debut and loses to Booker T, but they had a damn good match, I thought. And I always thought Rick Martel was a damn good worker and a great wrestler. Larry Zbyszko, up next, defeats Scott Hall by disqualification. And I believe Dusty Rhodes, at this pay-per-view, Dusty Rhodes might have turned on Larry Zbyszko. I think he's in his corner. Or Scott Hall called out Dusty Rhodes from commentary. He got off of commentary, and then he gets in the ring and he turns his hat backwards like I have right now. And then I believe he hits a bionic elbow on Larry Zbyszko and then drops an elbow on him. And Dusty Rhodes then takes his buttoned off shirt off, and I believe he has an NWO shirt on. So Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, joins the NWO at Sold Out 98. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But I'm pretty sure Dusty Rhodes joined the NWO at Sold Out 98. I hope I'm not wrong. There's just so much stuff that happened in 97 and 98 My brain can't remember, but I think Dusty Rhodes joined the NWO at Sold Out 98. Up next, the Steiner Brothers defeat, or the Steiner Brothers and Ray Traylor, who's Ray Traylor. He was the big boss man. He was out of the NWO, kicked out, I believe. So now he's WCW again. Team of Steiners and Ray Traylor defeat the team of Buff Bagwell, Scott Norton, and Conan, the NWO. Up next, Kevin Nash defeats the Giant. And I believe during this match, Kevin Nash tried to jackknife powerbomb the Giant, picked him up, dropped him on his head and on his neck. Looked like the Giant seriously could have broke his neck, but he didn't. But Kevin Nash, I don't know if that spot was meant to happen and look like that, but if it did, it looked real. And it looked like the Giant was really injured. And if it was set up, well, they made it look great then. But I don't even know how Kevin Nash could even pick up the Giant to jackknife powerbomb, because the guy was like 400 pounds. But whatever. Up next, Bret Hart making his WCW wrestling debut. Bret the Hitman Hart defeats Nature Boy Ric Flair. This match went, I think, 20 or 30 minutes, and it was pretty damn good. But Bret Hart's run in WCW was not good. It was just a failure, partially because of Bret Hart and him not giving his all to WCW, in my opinion. I don't think Bret Hart ever really cared to be there. And I'm sure he was depressed about the death of Owen Hart. And then I think Davey Boy Smith did not die when Bret was in WCW. He died in 2002. Anyways, I'm sure Bret Hart was depressed and didn't even care to be there in WCW. I'm sure he was depressed and angry and bitter over the Montreal screw job that the WWF did to him. Anyways, Bret Hart should have still put in 100% effort. And Eric Bischoff, I heard say in an interview recently that Bret Hart did not even want to be there in WCW when he would show up. Eric Bischoff claimed Bret Hart would show up late to the shows and did not want to be there and did not seem happy, and he seemed miserable. So I do believe Eric Bischoff and him saying that. But then Bret Hart says in interviews, Bret Hart has said he tried his best and gave WCW everything he had. But whatever. Even if Bret Hart did or did not give WCW everything he had and 100%, I still think Bret Hart and his WCW run did not work for Bret Hart or WCW. It didn't help either of them, because I always saw Bret Hart as a WWF guy forever. And he just did not fit in WCW, and WCW really had nothing for Bret Hart. They did nothing with him. They didn't utilize the man. Bret Hart is one of the all-time greatest technical wrestlers. And WCW didn't know what the fuck to do with Bret. Very sad, very tragic that Bret's run with WCW was that bad. Because Bret is a great worker and a legend and a Hall of Famer. And he didn't deserve to be treated with no respect in WCW like they probably treated him. So Bret Hart defeats Ric Flair. It's a pretty damn good match, I thought. Next, Lex Luger defeats Randy Savage, the Macho Man. I believe this was the final match of Sold Out. And then you had Sting. They did an in-ring segment with Sting and Hulk Hogan in their future title match at the next pay-per-view Superbrawl. You had J.J. Dillon in the ring. Hogan, Sting were face-to-face. Sting had the world title at the time. Sting finally speaks. He gets on the microphone If you didn't speak at Sold Out, I apologize. Then it was on a Thunder where you spoke. For the first time in well over a year, Sting speaks, looks at J.J. Dillon, says, "You sold out." I don't know what that means, whatever. Because J.J. Dillon never joined the NWO, so I didn't really get that. And then Sting looks at Hogan, points a bat at Hogan, and says, "And you're a dead man." So then the crowd popped, and they liked that. And that was the first words Sting had spoken in over a year. So it was great to hear him speak again. And they would have a main event title match at the next pay-per-view, WCW Superbrawl, in February of '98. So that was Sold Out. It was a decent pay-per-view. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. Now I'm going to talk about WWF No Way Out in Your House. It took place from Houston, Texas on February 15th, '98. First match, the Headbangers. Some of these matches I'm going to go over really quick because they were not entertaining to me. They were just thrown on the pay-per-view, and they really meant nothing to nobody, or nobody cared about them. The Headbangers defeat Mark Merrill and Goldust. Again, I didn't care about it. Light heavyweight champion Taka Michinoku defeated Pantera. Pantera was a light heavyweight with a mask and like white leopard wrestling gear. Looked like a white leopard or white zebra. That's what the guy looked like, Pantera. And he had a mask on. Henry Godwin and the Phineas, the Godwins, defeat the Quebecers. Again, nobody cared. Bradshaw defeated NWA North American champion Jeff Jarrett by disqualification. Before this match on Raw, Jim Cornette came back, got on the microphone and said he's bringing the NWA back. Real wrestling, real old school wrestling that means something. And he's bringing... They had a belt there that was a new title. It wasn't the original NWA title. It was just a new title belt. I'm sure the WWF created. So Jim Cornette says, "Your new NWA North American champion is Jeff Jarrett." And Jeff Jarrett comes out on Raw, has new ring gear, which looked god-awful. It was like white. It was a singlet. It was white and like baby blue and orange, and it was just awful ring gear. And I believe his boots were white or orange. It was just bad ring gear that Jeff Jarrett had. And then Jim Cornette brought in Team NWA. The Rock and Roll Express came out on Raw and appeared. I guess they signed a WWE deal for a couple months because they were around a couple months. So the Rock and Roll Express, Barry Windham was back as Barry Windham from the NWA. He was around for a very short time in '98 because he would leave WWF. They wouldn't renew his contract, and then he'd show up in WCW in '99 again. So that was Team NWA. Rock and Roll Express, Barry Windham, and Jim Cornette, and Jeff Jarrett. So Bradshaw defeats Jeff Jarrett, the NWA North American champion, by disqualification. Up next, Ken Shamrock, Ahmed Johnson, and the DOA defeat the Team of the Nation, the Team of Farouk, Mark Henry, Rocky, The Rock, Kama Mustafa, and D'Lo Brown. Up next, Kane defeats Vader and basically destroys him, and I believe at the end he uses a wrench and hits Vader in the head, in the face with a wrench, taking Vader out of action for a while. Main event was a eight-man tag, I believe is no disqualification street fight, or it might have been called a Texas death match because they were in Texas. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, and Chainsaw Charlie defeat the team of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Billy Gunn, Jesse James, and Savio Vega. Savio Vega was not supposed to be in the match. Shawn Michaels was supposed to be in the match, but he couldn't be because of the back injury that he suffered at the Royal Rumble 98 when he landed wrong and he went over the top rope and got backdropped by Taker. He landed wrong and hit his back on the end of the casket. So Shawn Michaels was out of action and was not at No Way Out. Savio Vega took his place. And this was a pretty good main event. Crowd was really into it. It was a great crowd. And Stone Cold hit stunners and got the victory for his team. So that was No Way Out. 98 in your house. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Superbrawl. 98 took place for the second year in a row from San Francisco, California. On February 22nd, 98. First match was Booker T defeating television champion Rick Martel to win the television title. And then Booker T defended the TV title against Perry Saturn. So Booker T then defeats Perry Saturn. Up next, Disco Inferno defeated La Parka. Nobody cared. This match should have not been on a pay-per-view. Bill Goldberg defeated Brad Armstrong. And at the time, Goldberg was starting to get over pretty much by February 98. He was destroying guys on Nitros and Thunders. Goldberg was destroying them within probably under 2 minutes. And he did probably destroy Brad Armstrong at Superbrawl 98. I don't remember how long the match went, but I'm sure it was under 5 minutes. So Goldberg defeats Brad Armstrong. Cruiserweight champion Chris Jericho, Lionheart, Monday Night Jericho. He created it in WCW. Anyways, Chris Jericho, Cruiserweight champion, defeats Juventud Guerrero by submission. And this might have been a match where Juventud Guerrero's mask was on the line and he might have had to unmask. I don't remember. Davey Boy Smith defeated Steve Mcmichael. Again, that match should have not been on pay-per-view. U.S. champion Diamond Dallas Page defeated Chris Benoit. They had a good match. It was entertaining. Lex Luger defeated Randy Savage. Again, nobody cared. Not because of Randy Savage, because nobody cared about Lex Luger versus Randy Savage in a series of matches. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall defeated the Steiner brothers for the World Tag Team titles. And this is a pay-per-view Superbrawl 98, where Scott Steiner turned on his brother Rick and joined the NWO. Why'd he do it? He probably wanted out of a tag team so he could create Big Papa Pump, his character. That's an obvious ripoff of Superstar Billy Graham. But whatever. Main event was Sting defending and beating Hulk Hogan. And the winner got the world title. The WCW world title was vacated. So the winner got the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Sting defeats Hollywood Hogan to win the WCW world title at Superbrawl 1998. That was Superbrawl. It was a pretty good pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. And I recommend you watch it on the network if you haven't seen it. But every match, the matches that are boring, just fast forward through. So that was Superbrawl 98. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about Shawn Michaels and his title run in 98 and his back injury. Shawn Michaels won the title at Survivor Series 97 in a screw job finish. Everybody knows that already. And then he gets injured at Royal Rumble against Undertaker in '98. He gets a back injury. The next day, I heard Shawn Michaels say in interviews in the past, the next day after Royal Rumble in bed, he couldn't move and he could not get out of bed. He could not move and get out of bed. Very scary indeed. That would be if you couldn't move and get out of bed because your back is injured. Anyways, so Shawn Michaels thinks his career may be over. Goes to doctors, and I think they tell him he can't wrestle anymore, and he should not be wrestling anymore. That his back is really fucked up, and it's just he needs back surgery, like immediately. So he takes off. After Royal Rumble, he takes off the February pay-per-view, doesn't work there. He didn't really need to work there. He just needed to show up to wrestle and put Stone Cold over and pass the torch to Stone Cold as the new champion, to get Stone Cold over as the guy in the face of the company. I don't think Shawn wanted to pass the torch at the time because he was a different guy. He had a lot of anger in him, and he just wasn't in a good place. Anyways, so I don't think Shawn saw it as passing the torch, but he knew that he had to put over Stone Cold, that it was best for business. So he put him over at WrestleMania 14, and it's been documented that main event at WrestleMania 14, that Shawn Michaels was in a lot of pain. It's obvious he was in pain. He had a back injury. He shouldn't even been in the ring. He shouldn't even risked it by wrestling, and he could have injured his back even more and been put in a wheelchair. I think his back was, he probably had bulging discs in his back, and they were probably pushing up against the spine, and I'm sure it was painful. I don't know how the hell Shawn Michaels got through the WrestleMania 14 match. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he performed. He performed amazing and pretty damn good for being injured. It was just amazing to watch and amazing to know that Shawn Michaels had such a bad back injury, and he still put on a pretty damn good WrestleMania main event at WrestleMania 14. And then Shawn Michaels has to retire after WrestleMania 14. He got the surgery on his back, and then he rehabbed, and he planned, I just heard this from interviews that Shawn Michaels has done. He planned to come back, and after rehab, he planned to come back to the WWF to wrestle. But it never happened, and he didn't get well enough. I guess the injury still bothered him, so he didn't get well enough to return until he returned 4 years later in 2002. And I'm really glad he came back in 2002 because he was probably better in the ring than he was in the late 90s. He was better in 2002 until he retired. In 2009 or 10 he retired. Anyways, Shawn Michaels retiring after WrestleMania 14. At the time, I was really sad about it, and I was pretty pissed that Shawn Michaels wasn't coming back. But I knew he was injured, and I just thought he would return at the end of 98 or 99. I thought he might come back. He never did. Obviously, he didn't want to risk getting back in the ring when he was injured. He probably still was injured in 99. Anyways, but it's awesome, us, the Shawn Michaels fans and the wrestling fans, it's awesome we got to see him again after he returned in 2002. I saw him live a couple times at Pay-Per-View Taboo Tuesday 2004. I saw Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Shawn Michaels had a bad knee. He injured his knee the night before on Raw. And I think he needed knee surgery, but he still showed up at the pay-per-view and still wrestled versus Triple H. So that's a lot of heart, and good for Shawn Michaels that he still agreed to work Taboo Tuesday 2004 with an injured knee when he could have not wrestled, but he didn't want to screw the fans He wanted to give them their money's worth because everybody knew Shawn Michaels was supposed to face Triple H on the card. So he still showed up with a really bad knee and worked against Triple H. But that was in 2004. I'm talking about 98. It was just very tragic that Shawn Michaels did not return at the end of 98. He did return at SummerSlam 98 on Sunday Night Heat. Before SummerSlam, it was like the kickoff to SummerSlam. Sunday Night Heat. The Sunday Night Heat debut. I believe it was a debut of Sunday Night Heat, where Shawn Michaels came back on commentary, or just came back to appear in the ring for the crowd at Madison Square Garden for SummerSlam 98. And then Shawn Michaels was brought back in 98 and 99. He was the WWF commissioner. And then he would turn, he was a babyface commissioner, then he would turn heel, and he super kicked, I think he super kicked X-Pac on an episode of Raw in 98 where X-Pac got a title shot against The Rock. And then he super kicked X-Pac and screwed him. And then he went up on the stage with the corporation, Vince McMahon, Shane, and The Rock, and Shawn was doing this towards X-Pac and how he just screwed him. So Shawn was a babyface, and then he turned heel and joined the corporation for a while, but then he was out of the corporation and he was still the commissioner. And then in 99 he was still the commissioner, and I believe he's having abuse problems with painkillers or alcohol or whatever, or drugs. I don't know what he was on, but he was having problems. So after WrestleMania 15, where Shawn Michaels appeared as commissioner, after that he was gone for a while again, to probably go to rehab or something. And then they would bring him back at King of the Ring 99, where he was a special guest referee, and he was still the commissioner. And then Shawn would turn babyface in 99 as a commissioner, and in a Monday Night Raw in 99, he was in an interview segment with Stone Cold, and he said Stone Cold is getting a title shot, or he gave Stone Cold a match against Vince in a steel cage at St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view in 99. So Shawn turned on the corporation and put Stone Cold in a match against Vince in a cage. Anyways, I'm done talking about the year in wrestling 1998 part 1. I'll be doing a part 2 tomorrow. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at TNAWWE Guy and at NXT WWE Guy. I don't tweet much from NXT WWE Guy, but I do tweet from there when the NXT is on. So, bye for now, everybody.